The War Council chamber aboard the Zephyrian flagship Dominion's Edge hummed with the low vibration of advanced technology. 5 beings sat around a crystalline table that projected three-dimensional images of star systems, fleet movements, and tactical data. The air recyclers worked overtime to accommodate the different atmospheric needs of the assembled leaders. The human fleet approaches the Kepler 442 system, announced Admiral Vextar, his scaled hands gesturing at the holographic display. The Zephyrians' golden eyes reflected the light of distant stars. 17 vessels, primitive fusion drives, chemical projectile weapons. He paused, mandibles clicking in what passed for amusement among his species. They call this ... a war fleet. Ambassador Kethera of the Galactic Council leaned forward, her 4 arms folded in contemplation. The diplomatic caste markings along her neck glowed a soft blue. The humans have been warned. 3 times we have offered them peaceful surrender. 3 times they have refused. Their response was colorful, noted Dr. Yilson, the expedition's behavioral analyst. The insectoid being's compound eyes shifted through several color spectrums as she accessed her data files. I quote, "Tell your fancy ships to kiss our exhaust trails." This is followed by what our linguistics team believes is a complex series of insults regarding our ... reproductive capabilities. Science Officer Mordak's tentacles writhed in confusion. This defies logical analysis. Our fleet consists of 400 vessels. Each of our dreadnoughts outmasses their largest ship by a factor of 20. Our weapons are plasma-based. Our shields are quantum reinforced. Why do they persist in this futile gesture? The 5th member of the council, tactical advisor Zareth, remained silent. The cybernetically enhanced warrior had been studying human military history for weeks, and something about the data troubled him. His metallic facial plates shifted as he processed information streams. Perhaps, Ambassador Kethera continued, they simply don't understand the magnitude of their disadvantage. Humans are a Category 3 species. They have barely achieved faster than light travel. Their weapons are ... quaint. Admiral Vextar stood, his 7-foot frame casting a shadow across the tactical display. The Kepler system contains 3 inhabited worlds and 2 major mining colonies. Over 40 million sentient beings call it home. The humans claim it as their territory based on some ancient colonization charter. Irrelevant, of course. The Galactic Council has designated it for Zephyrian expansion, and they're willing to fight for it, Dr. Yilson observed. 40 million civilians, and they won't evacuate. Instead, they're organizing ... defense militias. Zareth finally spoke, his voice carrying the metallic undertone of his vocal implants. I have been analyzing their military doctrine. There are ... patterns I find concerning. Concerning, Vextar's mandibles clicked again. Their largest vessel mounts projectile cannons that fire metal slugs. Our point defense systems could intercept every round they fire. Yes, Zareth replied slowly, that is what concerns me. The first human ships appeared at the edge of the Kepler system 12 hours later. The Zephyrian fleet had positioned itself in a standard intimidation formation ... a wall of massive vessels with weapon systems powered and shields at full strength. It was a display meant to encourage immediate surrender. Instead, the human ships accelerated directly toward them. Incoming transmission, reported Communications Officer Hakto from the bridge. The humans are broadcasting on all frequencies. Put it through, Vextar ordered. A human voice filled the council chamber. Male, middle-aged, with the calm professionalism that marked experienced military officers. This is Admiral Marcus Chen of the Earth Colonial Defense Force, commanding the Fifth Fleet. You are trespassing in human space. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences. The silence that followed was broken by what sounded suspiciously like Zephyrian laughter. Admiral Chen, Vexstar replied, activating the communication array. I am Admiral Vexstar of the Zephyrian. Hegemony, you command 17 vessels. I command 400. Your weapons are primitive. Your shields are barely functional. I offer you one final chance to surrender. Counteroffer came the immediate response. You have 10 minutes to begin withdrawal. After that, we consider you hostile. The transmission ended. Dr. Yilson's color patterns shifted to deep purple, indicating confusion. They cannot be serious. The mathematical probability of their success is ... 0.003%, Mordock supplied. Rounded up, perhaps they plan to ram our ships, suggested Hakto, a suicide attack. Zereth studied the tactical display with growing unease. The human fleet had spread into a loose formation, their ships moving with purpose rather than panic. Notice their positioning. They're not forming a battle line. They single quotes dispersing. Irrelevant, Vexstar declared. All ships, prepare for combat. Target their command vessel first. Quick, clean, efficient. Will be done in time for the evening. Meal. The first shots came not from the human ships, but from the asteroid belt, a massive mining asteroid. Previously catalogued as inert rock, suddenly erupted with hidden weapon emplacements. Plasma bolts and railgun rounds hammered into the rear. Of the Zephyrian formation, 3 destroyers lost their shields before they could react. What ... Vexstar stared at the tactical display in shock. That asteroid ... It's been armed. More asteroids came to life. The humans had been busy during their weeks of preparation, hollowing out mining sites and installing weapon platforms. Worse, they'd done it quietly, using low-energy tools that didn't register on Zephyrian sensors. They turned their mining equipment into weapons, Mordock reported, his tentacles flowing through data streams. Mining lasers refocused into cutting, beams, or haulers converted into kinetic missile platforms. Industrial fusion reactors overloaded to create improvised nuclear devices. The Zephyrian fleet, designed for ship-to-ship combat, found itself fighting a 3-dimensional battlefield where any piece of space debris might suddenly reveal hidden weapons. Clever, admitted Zareth, but his voice carried more concern than admiration. The human ships, meanwhile, had done something no rational species would attempt. Instead of engaging the main Zephyrian fleet, they'd split up and were racing toward the inhabited worlds below. They're abandoning the fight, Hakto reported. The cowards are running. But Zereth wasn't convinced. The human ships weren't running. Randomly, they were moving with purpose, taking positions that made no tactical sense unless they're using the planets as cover, he realized, and they're positioning themselves to ... The first human ship dove into the atmosphere of Kepler-4 for to be a world with 60% water coverage. It skimmed the upper atmosphere, then launched. A spread of what appeared to be simple kinetic projectiles into the ocean below. 30 seconds later, the planet's surface erupted in a series of massive explosions. Tsunamis raced across the continents. Massive clouds of steam rose into the atmosphere, creating a dense fog that disrupted Zephyrian sensors. They're weaponizing the planet itself, Mordock whispered. Those projectiles, They targeted undersea volcanic vents. They're triggering seismic events. Another human ship positioned itself near the system's gas giant and began firing into the planet's atmosphere. Within minutes, the chemicals' reactions created a massive storm system that interfered with long-range communications. This is... Dr. Yilson struggled to find words. No rational species would deliberately damage a world they claimed to protect. The environmental consequences alone. Unless, Zareth said quietly, they believe they can repair the damage later, but only if they survive the battle. The asteroid-based weapons continued their assault, forcing the Zephyrian fleet to split their attention between the hidden emplacements and the darting human ships. Every time a Zephyrian vessel moved to engage a human ship, it found itself in the crossfire from multiple directions. Admiral Vextar watched his tactical display with growing alarm. His fleet still outnumbered the humans 20-1, but the humans weren't fighting a conventional battle. They were fighting like cornered animals. If cornered animals could plan three-dimensional ambushes and turn entire planets into weapons. Status. Report, he demanded. 17 ships lost, Heiko replied. Another 34 damaged. The humans have lost 3 vessels. 3. Vextar's scales shifted to a darker shade. Out of 17. The humans are not engaging in direct combat, Zareth explained. They strike and withdraw, using the modified terrain to their advantage. They're forcing us to fight their kind of battle. On the display, another human ship performed an impossible maneuver, diving so close to the system's star that its hull began to glow. The ship emerged from the solar corona and launched a spread of projectiles that had been superheated. During the flyby, the makeshift plasma weapons punched through Zephyrian shields like they were made of paper. They used the star as a forge, Mordok reported, his voice carrying a note of academic fascination. They heated simple metal projectiles to plasma. Temperatures using solar radiation. Brilliant. Suicidal, but brilliant. Estimated casualty rate among human crews? Dr. Yilson asked. For that maneuver? 70% from radiation exposure alone, Mordok replied. The humans who flew that mission, they're dying as we speak. The implications of that statement settled over the council like a cold weight. The humans were winning their individual battles, but at a cost that should have broken their morale hours ago. Why do they continue? Dr. Yilson whispered. They must know the casualties they're taking. The answer came in the form of an intercepted human transmission. Admiral Chen's voice, strained but determined. Phoenix Squadron, your reactor's critical. Eject now. Negative, Admiral, came the reply from a younger voice. Still got fight left in this bird. Besides, someone's got to make sure the Zephyrians remember this day. The transmission ended in static as the human ship's reactor overloaded, taking 3 Zephyrian vessels with it. They're not just fighting for territory, Zareth realized. They're fighting for the right to exist. To them, this isn't a battle. It's survival. The human fleet, now reduced to 8 functional vessels, began the second phase of their strategy. They'd scattered mines throughout the system, not conventional explosives, but modified industrial equipment. Cargo containers filled with mining chemicals, maintenance pods loaded with cutting tools, construction drones reprogrammed as kamikaze units. The Zephyrian fleet found itself navigating a maze of improvised weapons, each one more creatively deadly than the last. Admiral Heiko reported, "We're receiving a transmission from the human colony on Kepler 4 for to see. They're offering medical assistance." "What medical assistance, sir?" for our wounded. They're broadcasting surgical procedures that might help our injured crews. Vexter stared at the communications officer. They're in the middle of a battle with us, and they're offering medical aid. The transmission comes with a message. Hector continued. Quote, "We don't want to fight you. We just want you to leave our worlds alone. But if you're going to be here, we're not going to let people die when we can help them." The council chamber fell silent except for the hum of life support systems. "This makes no strategic sense," Dr. Yilson observed. "Providing aid to an enemy during active combat. It could compromise their tactical advantage." "Unless," Zareth said slowly, "they're not thinking strategically, they're thinking morally." The battle continued for another 6 hours. The humans lost 2 more ships, but they'd transformed the entire Kepler system into a weapon. Asteroids became missile platforms. Planets became environmental weapons. Even the system's communication satellites had been reprogrammed to create false sensor readings. By the time Admiral Vextar called for withdrawal, the Zephyrian fleet had lost over 100 vessels. The humans had 6 ships left, and most of those were barely functional. But the humans had won. The War Council reconvened aboard the Dominion's Edge as the fleet limped toward the edge of the system. The mood was markedly different from 12 hours earlier. "Casualties?" Ambassador Kethera asked quietly. 23,000 dead, Vexter replied. 47,000 wounded. Material losses include... He paused, unwilling to continue the recitation of devastation. "The humans lost approximately 8,000 crew members," Murdoch added, "from a total force of 12,000. Casualties," Dr. Yilson noted, "and they still fought. They still won." Zareth activated the holographic display, showing the modified Kepler system. "Observe. In less than 4 weeks, they transformed an entire star system into a defensive network. They used mining equipment, construction tools, even their own civilian infrastructure as weapons. They turned planets into artillery platforms. The most disturbing aspect," Murdoch continued, "is the adaptability they displayed. When our tactics proved superior, they changed theirs. When our weapons were more advanced, they improvised alternatives. When our shields deflected their attacks, they found new ways to deliver damage." Ambassador Kethera's diplomatic markings had shifted to a deep blue-black, indicating serious concern. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying," Zareth replied, "that we have fundamentally misunderstood what humans are. They are not a Category 3 species. Category 3 species follow logical patterns. They surrender when defeat is certain. They prioritize survival over victory. Humans did the opposite," Dr. Yilson added. "When defeat became certain, they fought harder. When survival became unlikely, they prioritized victory." "The medical aid transmission," Vextar said suddenly. "Explain." "That," Dr. Yilson consulted her files. "Analysis suggests it was genuine. They were actually offering to help our wounded, even while the battle continued. Our xenopsychology models have no framework for this behavior, because it's not rational," Murdoch observed. "Rational beings don't help their enemies during combat, unless..." Zareth said, "They operate under a different definition of rationality. What if 2 humans helping wounded beings is always rational, regardless of circumstance?" The implications of that statement hung in the air like a toxic cloud. "Recommendation," Kethera asked. ZS metallic features shifted as he processed data streams and tactical assessments. "Immediate reclassification of humans as a Category 7 species, minimum. Possibly Category 9. The council chamber erupted in alarmed, chittering, clicking, and harmonic frequencies. Category 9. Vextar's scales had shifted to pure white. That classification is reserved for species that pose an existential threat to galactic civilization. Consider, Zereth continued calmly, that we just witnessed humans with primitive technology defeat a vastly superior force through improvisation, environmental manipulation, and tactical innovation. They did this while taking 67% casualties and still offering medical aid to their enemies. Now consider what they might accomplish with advanced technology. Consider what they might do if they decided to take the offensive instead of simply defending their territory. Dr. Yilson's compound eyes cycled through several spectrums of light. The probability models. If humans had access to our technology, combined with their demonstrated adaptability and willingness to accept casualties, they would be unstoppable, Mordok finished. Not because they're more advanced, but because they think differently. They use their environment as a weapon. They sacrifice their own systems to achieve victory. They continue fighting when surrender is logical. Ambassador Kethera activated her personal communication array. I need to contact the Galactic Council immediately. This situation requires ... reassessment. What kind of reassessment? Vextar asked. The kind that ensures we never fight humans again, Gathara replied. The kind that makes them our allies, instead of our enemies. The transmission to the Galactic Council was brief but comprehensive. Ambassador Cathara's report contained detailed tactical analyses, casualty reports, and behavioral assessments. But the conclusion was simple. Humans were too dangerous to fight and too valuable to ignore. The response from the Council was equally brief: negotiate. Whatever it takes. Admiral Vextar found himself in the unusual position of requesting a ceasefire from a vastly outnumbered enemy. The human response was characteristically direct. Admiral Chen here. You're calling to surrender, not... Exactly, Vextar replied. We're calling to discuss terms for mutual withdrawal and future cooperation. There was a pause. Then, you mean you want to be friends now? We mean we want to avoid being enemies. Another pause. Give us a minute to think about it. The human fleet, battered and bloodied, held position while there. Leadership conferred. When Admiral Chen came back on the channel, his voice carried a note of grim satisfaction. Here are our terms. You leave our space, all of it. Every human colony, every human outpost, every human ship. You don't come back unless you're invited. Agreed, Vextar replied immediately. Second, you help us fix the environmental damage we caused during the fight. We know you've got better technology for planetary restoration. Also agreed. Third, we want a formal treaty. Not just with you, but with this Galactic Council we keep hearing about. Equal partners, not junior members. Vextar looked at Ambassador Cathara, who was already nodding. The Council will agree to those terms. Good. One more thing. Voice carried a hint of humor. We want to know how you got your ships to move so fast. Our engines are ... primitive. Despite everything, Vextar found himself almost smiling. Even in victory, the humans were looking for ways to improve, to adapt, to become more dangerous. That information will be part of the technology exchange agreement, he replied. Fair enough. Admiral Chen out. The War Council remained in session for another 3 hours, but the real work was finished. Reports were filed, analyses were completed, and recommendations were submitted to higher authorities. But the real discussion happened in the quiet moments between official business. They could have destroyed us, Dr. Yilson observed. If they'd been willing to accept total casualties, they could have taken our entire fleet with them. But they didn't, Murdoch noted. They fought to win, not to inflict maximum damage, even while offering medical aid to wounded enemies. That's what makes them so dangerous, Zareth said. They're not mindless killers. They're thinking, caring beings who happen to be incredibly good at warfare when they need to be. The Galactic Council will want a full assessment, Cath said. Recommendations for future contact protocols. Simple, Zareth replied. Don't threaten them. Don't attack them. Don't try to conquer them. Treat them as equals, and they'll probably be the best allies we've ever had. And if we make them enemies, Zareth gestured toward the tactical display, which still showed the transformed Kepler system. Asteroids armed with improvised weapons, planets turned into environmental artillery, the debris of hundreds of Thorian vessels floating in space. Then we learn what humans are capable of when they're not fighting defensively, he said. And I suspect none of us would survive that lesson. The Zephyrian fleet departed the Kepler system 12 hours later, carrying wounded crew members who had received medical treatment from human doctors. The irony was not lost on anyone involved. As the stars shifted to blue-white in the viewports, Admiral Vextar composed his final report. The words came slowly, each one chosen with care. Recommend immediate cessation of hostile actions against human territories. Recommend reclassification of human species to Category 9 threat level. Recommend priority diplomatic contact to establish alliance protocols. Rationale: humans represent a paradigm shift in galactic military thinking. They do not fight to destroy enemies. They fight to protect what they value. This makes them exponentially more dangerous than species that fight for conquest or dominance. They will turn any environment into a weapon. They will sacrifice themselves to achieve victory. They will offer aid to enemies while fighting for their lives. They will continue combat when logic demands surrender. Most critically, they adapt. Every tactic we used against them, they found a counter for. Every advantage we possessed, they found a way to neutralize. Every strategy we employed, they found a way to turn against us. Conclusion: humans must not be allowed to become our enemies. Whatever the cost of alliance, it is less than the cost of continued conflict. Personal note: in 40 years of military service, I have never encountered a species that could make me fear my own superior firepower. Today, I learned what that feels like. The sky turned red above Kepler 4-4 to be, stained with the debris of Zephyrian vessels and the flames of human sacrifice. I recommend we ensure it never turns red above our own worlds. The report was transmitted to Zephyrian High Command within the hour. The response came back in record time. All human territories are hereby classified as off-limits to military action. Diplomatic corps is authorized to negotiate alliance terms. Priority 1. In the depths of space, the human fleet began the long process of repair and recovery. They had won their victory, but the cost had been terrible. Of the 12,000 crew members who had entered the battle, fewer than 4,000 remained operational, but they had proven something important, something that would echo through the galaxy for generations to come. They had proven that humans, when defending what they loved, were willing to pay any price and face any odds. And they had proven that sometimes that was enough. The galaxy would remember the day the sky turned red above Kepler 4 for 2b. They would remember the species that turned mining equipment into weapons. planets into shields, and casualties into victory. They would remember that humans were not to be underestimated ever again in the weeks that followed. The Galactic Council opened formal diplomatic relations with the United Earth colonial government. Trade agreements were signed, technology exchanges were arranged, cultural ambassadors were appointed. But in the military planning rooms of a dozen species, new protocols were established. New threat assessments were filed. New defensive strategies were developed. All of them began with the same premise: never fight humans on their home territory, and if you must fight them at all, pray that you never see their sky turn red, because that means they've decided that victory is worth any price. And when humans decide that victory is worth any price, they usually get what they want.